Okay, let's go.
So the next video in this series is going to talk about the transact step. So I know I'm not wearing my start shirt either. I think one of the most important things for investors is to invest in themselves and to invest in education. And so this shirt is from Limitless, which was a real estate and entrepreneurship conference that I attended about a year ago or so. It was great. I highly recommend getting out there and finding events like that you can better yourself. And the more national that you can go, the larger audience that you can go, the better. The local ones are amazing and they really build up your network and let you find out different things about um, who's doing what in the area and let people know what you're actually doing. And I always say it's more important than who you know. What's more important is who knows you. And so getting out there in your local market is important for that reason. But when it comes to education, the larger conferences, the networking, the national conferences and things like that is going to be the most vital because there isn't a lot of gatekeeping in situations like that. So just a little added nugget for you guys today. But we want to dive into the transact step. We are going over the 5 steps to the START program: study, target, acquire, resell, and transact. And we are on the target step, not the transact step. In a previous video, we talked about the study. We talked about the 4 most important things: knowing your market, knowing your seller, knowing your buyers, and knowing your budget. Now we're going to take all that information and start developing it on the target side, right? We're going to make our decision on what type of targeting we're going to use that best fits our sellers, our buyers, and our budget for our market. So that's why all 4 of those are super important. The first thing comes into your market. When you start looking at your market, you're going to look at the size of your market, the population density of your market, and things of that nature, and how niche down you are, right? So if you are nationwide or if you are statewide, um, then getting into like just broad spectrum TV, radio, um, pay-per-click type situations, Facebook, Meta, places like that, YouTube, you can absolutely do that, and you're going to pull in from a less defined geographical area, right? But if you're very niche down into like a specific zip code or two, when you start doing that broad stuff, just understand that you're going to pull stuff from other areas and you need to be able to monetize those in some way, shape, or form. So it all comes down into your network and your ability to solve problems. Currently, we're running meta ads for my company. And while we are kind of focused on our metro area, we get meta ads from everywhere in the state and other states as well, right? Just because somebody's in your market and they see your ad and the targeting work doesn't mean that the property that they're looking to sell is in your market. So you need to understand that and kind of understand the types of things that you're going to get. When we look at targeting in general, you got basically 2 forms of marketing. The first one is going to be outbound marketing. It's going to be where you're going to be the one, or your company or your team is going to be the one that's actually reaching out to find motivated sellers or buyers for that matter, right? You can do marketing on the disposition side as well. Um, but you're the one initiating that contact. That's outbound marketing. So um, I consider direct mail as outbound marketing, cold texting, cold calling as outbound marketing. Door knocking is another less common but absolutely effective way of doing things. Um, those are all outbound marketing, and they require typically a little bit more work and effort. So time and effort, more than actual financial investment. Not to say that some of those can't be super expensive, but uh, for the most part, they're going to cost more on the time and effort side than they are on the financial side. The inbound marketing is kind of the opposite in a lot of ways. Inbound, the client is the one that's reaching out to you. They're the one that is initiating contact from you. So it's coming from some type of advertisement, some type of they know who you are and they're reaching out to you for assistance. Uh, Typically, these cost more money than they do time and effort. These people that are reaching out, they're raising their hand. They're saying that I need your assistance for whatever. Now you're going to get tire kickers from any type of marketing that you do. So absolutely, if you put an advertisement out there, you get people that are like, "Oh, I'm just checking." Right? Not everybody that reaches out to you is going to be highly motivated, but as a rule of thumb, it will take less time and effort to move them through your sales process, but the cost is going to be higher. So your cost per lead, your cost per conversion, and things that could be higher. Um, your cost per lead is definitely going to be higher. Your cost per conversion may not be. It just depends, because you're going to have less. Typically, you're going to have less bites at the apple when it comes to inbound marketing. You're going to have less opportunities to come in on inbound marketing, depending on your ad spend. So in outbound marketing, you can generate opportunities, multiple opportunities, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get a high close rate. You should have a little bit higher close rate on inbound, just because when these people reach out to you, they are already thinking, they're in that mindset. So it's not that they're ready, but they could be ready to move forward right away. And I think that's an important distinction for sure. I don't know that there is or isn't an amazing, you know, there isn't a silver bullet when it comes to marketing channels and things like that. Um, I think that there are benefits to both outbound and inbound. I think inside of each one of those, outbound and inbound, all the different channels that are a possibility. I think there's weaknesses and benefits to all of them. I think the most successful people that I have found use a combination of something, two, three, four, 10 different marketing channels, but they all kind of communicate together. So their direct mail references their website, and their television ads reference their website, or a postcard that you may have received in the mail or something of that nature. So it all kind of works together, which actually makes it difficult as a business to be able to say this channel is performing better than this channel, because they all kind of work in conjunction. It may have been the postcard that got them to get to your website to fill out a form on your website instead of calling the number on your postcard. Um, so it was actually the direct mail that created that lead, but it came in through your website. So it makes it tough to kind of track and things like that. But once you start branding yourself and building that marketing machine and things like that, you'll understand that the the minutia of whether or not I get a 300 or 350% return on my marketing dollars for this one channel doesn't matter necessarily as much as for my marketing dollars, for every dollar that I spend, I'm getting $3.72 back, right? Like that return is what's important. I have 5 different channels that are going. If I were to turn one of those off and it affects that total number, that's where I'm in. So it comes into KPIs, it comes into a lot of business development, standard operating procedures, kind of just the way that you run a business and the way that you analyze your business. Um, and we can dive into that stuff as well. I think that'll be some additional stuff talking about key KPIs for key performance indexes, key KPIs for a wholesaling business. We can absolutely dive into that. I think that doesn't really lay into the START program for this program, study, target, acquire, resell, and transact. The target step is let's pick something because there is no silver bullet. I don't think that any one is going to work necessarily better than the others. What's important in the target step is that we pick something and then we commit to it. In our budget, we said that we were going to commit 6 to 12 months worth of time, effort, and money into our business. So we know how much we can spend. That is going to affect our decision making on what we can choose as far as marketing channels. And our time and effort is kind of defined as well. So we're going to take that commitment that we made to ourselves in the study step, and we're going to implement it here into marketing and putting money into the business to generate opportunities and leads, generate opportunities to be able to provide solutions for our sellers. So I think when you break them down on the outbound side, cold calling is probably the most common out of all of them, or direct mail. Some people consider direct mail as to be inbound, but I think the biggest thing is when you're the one that's reaching out and you have to pull data to be able to find those folks and things of that nature. That is where it comes from. Um, there's a lot of different places, a lot of different things that you can do yourself to be able to implement the different types of marketing. I think that each marketing channel kind of requires its own unique, what's the word, process and tools. So if you are the one that's doing the cold calling and whether it's you've hired out, a team of virtual assistants to do it, you're pulling mass amounts of data and things like that, but you're the one that is doing everything, you're going to need to know the areas that you're going to want to target. You're going to want to find the motivations that you're looking for: absentee, vacant, tired landlord, high equity, low equity, all those different uh, types of situations, length of ownership, out of state, in state, out of county, but in state, right? Like all these different qualifiers to be able to pull your list together to be able to do that. And then you're going to have to find skip tracing. So you're going to go to things like PropStream or Batch or REI Skip or whatever it happens to be. You're going to skip trace all these individuals, these addresses, and find telephone numbers. And full disclosure, you're going to skip trace one address and it's going to come back with 12 different phone numbers. Problem is maybe one of those is the right number. It may not be. You may call all 12 of them and all 12 of them may be disconnected. Um, your data is highly important when you're the one that is taking care of it and the one that you're doing it. Not all data is created equal. Um, good quality data is highly important, right? I would much rather pull a list that has 2 to 3 phone numbers for each person and an 80 to 90% contact rate than pull a list that has 15 telephone numbers for everybody and get a 20% contact rate, right? I have to do more work to find less people, whereas here I can do less work to find more people. The object on outbound is making a connection, making a contact, confirming that you've actually got the right person, right? Um, one of the things that I've done that kind of plays on if you're doing it yourself with pulling lists and things of that nature is especially, and you have to be in the local market or you have to have boots on the ground to do this. But if you take a list that you pulled of data, I specifically was pulling absentee vacant lists. So the owner had a different mailing address than the property address. So that means that they're absentee. They don't actually reside there per se, and vacant. So whatever qualifiers, the list that built that, the prop stream or whatever it was, whatever qualifiers they had for a vacancy, um, they qualified for that. So not only did the owner not live there, but technically nobody should be living there. And I pulled a list for an area, and then I just took all of a zip code, right, in that area, and it had about 40 addresses or so. I took just those 40 addresses and I put them into a Google map and got little pins all over my map. And I went and drove all 40 of those properties. And I had my skip tracing and everything there. I had the sheet in front of me. So I was able to drive. And if I saw that a property was, in fact, vacant or distressed, then absolutely, I called all of them, but call them right in front of the property and try to have a conversation there and see and take notes and things like that. But what I found is that on some lists, if I had 100 addresses on the list from some list sources, I would drive for just straight vacant qualifiers. I would drive 100 addresses and find 20 of them are vacant. And then on a different list source, I would drive 100 addresses and I could find 60 vacant properties. That tells me that the list source that I used to get the 60 out of 100 is a better list source, better data, right? I also got deals from doing that because I'm actually going through. I was able to take a list of, in this scenario, 100 and dial down just into 20, right? I know that these are vacant. I know that these are distressed. I also found about 15 or 20 that were not on my list. So I added. Now I have 35 to 40 highly distressed, confirmed addresses. Now I understand time, effort, and money very valuable to be able to convert these folks. I need to make connections with all of these. So I'm putting all of my time and all of my effort into contacting these 35 to 40 people. And that's how I got the deals, right? So I would send them handwritten postcards. I would call them every single day. I would shoot them text messages. I would go the extra mile. If I got somebody on the phone and they said that they weren't there, I would ask additional questions to try to uncover who I needed to speak to. I knew that the house was distressed, and therefore that was a qualifier for me to go through. If you pull a list of 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 addresses and you don't know, you haven't confirmed that the property is vacant or the property is distressed or that the seller's distressed or any of the information, you're just relying strictly on the data that you have in front of you on a computer screen, and you spend that type of time, effort, and money to contact every single person, it's going to be highly expensive. And you're going to blow your budget very quickly trying to do that. So the power of niching down and stacking your list and highly qualifying your lists and things like that means that you're able to put more concerted effort into the leads that you're doing. It's not always necessarily the best, depending on the scale that you're doing. If you're starting out, that's an amazing way to do things, to get things going, proof of concept, to see that things are happening. At scale, though, if you're putting in so much effort to contact 1 to 35, whatever it is, different addresses, you're limited to a very small pool. And once those are done, you've done no work on anybody else that's out there. So a more broad kind of shotgun, just, let's just hit as many as we can and then sort through what comes in top of funnel, very big type situations are more important at scale, right? But when you're just starting out, having a small top of funnel is fine. Let me start with these 35. I know that these 35 are good. Let me find one in this 35. Maybe I can find three, but man, let me just find one, right? So it just depends on where you are in your process and where you are in your business and where you are in your growth and your scaling. Um, Cold calling, cold texting, direct mail, door knocking, all those things, they are all going to take more time and effort than they are money. Cold texting, there's a lot of TPC regulation around it. So be very, very careful. Direct mail. There's so many different options, from a very simple, just printed postcard, to a handwritten letter, to letters that are handwritten by machines. They're not actually written by hand, but they have actual handwriting and things like that. Um, the data that's along with it, with the AI and things of that nature, finding the different motivations and stacking them and having custom postcards for people that are in foreclosure. I know that that's a qualifier. Well, there needs to be behind on payments somewhere on their postcard. But if somebody's a tired landlord, I don't want behind on payments on theirs. I want problem tenants on theirs, right? And one list that can do all that all at once. You can do check direct mail. So you're actually doing like an actual check with this. We could pay you this much for your house. Very large print, very small, very. There's so many different options when it comes to direct mail, and the cost varies. Cost varies by market, but it also varies by what you're actually going to send. And each one of those, whether it's a postcard or a check or a flyer or whatever it is, each one of those are going to have a different open rate. They have a different response rate. And I've talked to people that run direct mail companies, and in Texas versus Massachusetts versus Oregon versus Florida, the same exact postcard could operate and perform 4 different ways. So just understand that your market that you're choosing is going to be specific to how things happen. Some people, I know people that call all over the United States and do cold calling all over the United States. Um, Cold calling works better in some areas of the United States than others. Um, like up in the Northeast and in New York and Massachusetts and Vermont and Connecticut and places like that, cold calling doesn't work as much as it does down in Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, down that southeast region and things of that nature, because it's much more fast paced up in the Northeast. And it's just a different mindset up there. Down Southern, you have Southern hospitality, Southern charm, obviously not all over the place, but that is real, right? It's a little bit slower pace of lifestyle, and they're willing to speak. Here in West Virginia, cold calling's amazing. We're a slower pace lifestyle. We're friendly. We like to have a conversation. We like to talk. We're big on trust. So if you come across as somebody that's just coming out to have a conversation and just help, I've had people tell me their life story, and inside of states, completely different, right? Like Southwestern Virginia versus Central Virginia versus Northern Virginia, 3 totally different areas, right? So just understand the market that you choose has a lot of different variables that go into it. And each marketing channel is going to perform a little bit differently depending on the market that you choose. And that's completely fine. Cold calling isn't necessarily the greatest marketing channel in Central Virginia. I'm telling you that in my business, there's not been a time that we have not done cold calling. It's just consistency over time works. Now, you also have options for all of the ones, whether it's inbound or outbound, for like what we call white glove done for you services. And we have moved our business away from in-house, where I had the people, I had the phone systems, I had the data and all that stuff, into a white glove done for you type cold calling system. So I don't have to worry about the management of those things. But that's a decision that you have to make for yourself. It's available for any type of marketing channel that you choose. There are absolutely providers out there that will do the done for you white glove. White glove's always going to have a higher price tag. You need to completely understand that. But you're taking back your time and some of your effort by adding to that cost, right? So now you're starting to see when we started about talking about the budget and the study step, time, effort, and money, how they kind of work together to build what your budget actually is. Inbound marketing, uh, I think that it's a little bit more work on the setup side of things for the most part. And so for that reason, it's a little bit longer. There's more upfront cost because you have to set the things up and you're not getting an immediate return. Whereas outbound, you could literally pull a list for free from the courthouse, use a free skip trace like was it True People Search, get a telephone number, the first telephone call that you make. Hey, John, this is Seth over here. I was just giving you a call. Want to see, you ever thought about selling your property over there on 123 Main Street? Oh man, Seth, I can't believe you called me today. When can you come over and look at it? I'm ready to get this thing done. First telephone call you make ends up being a deal, right? That's not going to happen, but possible. And you could spend absolutely no money. Um, on the inbound side, you're probably going to have to spend some upfront stuff. You have your website that you can make out through Carrot or all different types. You can use AI if you want to. Like there's so many different options out there for website building and hosting. Um, I think it's important sooner rather than later to have something, even if it's a free Google site or a cheap Google site with a domain and things of that nature. I think that having a web presence in today and moving forward is going to be vital. Um, I think that we'll dive into it a little bit more on maybe like an inbound altogether. But I think that being searchable with AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or whatever it happens to be, it's going to be vital moving forward. Um, but having a website is going to be more vital now in 2026 and beyond than it was in 2016. Just food for thought. Um, then are you going to start putting ads out, sponsored click links, right, on Google or on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it happens to be, pay per click type ads? Um, those perform very well. Just depends on where your market is, what the competition is, and things of that nature. Um, you've got TV, you've got radio, you've got billboards, all different types of advertising, putting yourself out there, putting your brand out there to have people reach out to you. Um, again, you have so many different options that you really have to dive into each one individually and understand that they're going to bring back a little bit different result depending on what you choose as far as the level of motivation. But advertising and marketing in general, like the key to a good advertisement is to elicit a response, just like the key to a good email is to elicit a response, right? If I'm going to send cold emails to 50 people, I want people to click. I want people to open it, right? If I'm sending text messages, I don't want to give them all the information and make it a sales pitch in a text message. I'd rather send, hey, you have time to chat? To have them reply, who the hell is this? Now they're on their phone. They just replied. And I'm on my phone and I'm replying. Oh, glad I caught you. I wanted to talk to you about your house. They're going to reply again because their phone's right in front of them, right? It's like I want to elicit that response. Same thing on any type of advertisements that are out there. When they drive down the street and they see a billboard, like it needs to catch their eye. It needs to be something that's like, oh, yeah, I remember those guys, right? When something happens, where was that billboard that I drove by? Let me get that number of that company. They can help us out, right? That's what's important. You need to make that connection in some way, shape, or form so that they actually reach out. They may not have that level of motivation when they first see your ad, right? That's where the consistency really comes into play, because on inbound marketing, if you can build that repetitive nature to where they're seeing your ads and they understand and everything is kind of branded together, right? Like, um, for me, like the start t-shirt that I have on all the time, like, oh yeah, that's the guy that wears the start t-shirts. What's his name? I need to call him. He does houses in Morgantown, right? Like, there's a reason why I wear the same shirt almost all the time. It's because I want it to be recognizable. Um, so with that being said, we've got inbound marketing, we've got outbound marketing, different costs for each. Typically, inbound is going to cost a little bit more, but you're going to have less leads, but they convert at a higher rate. Outbound marketing is going to cost a little bit less. You're going to probably have more leads, but they're going to convert at a lower rate. That doesn't necessarily matter. I can tell you inbound, outbound, like doing equal parts of both in a business and putting equal effort in and different things like that on every lead, no matter what it is. And you see basically the same return, anywhere from a 3 to 5x return on your marketing dollars. Um, what's important is that you put the effort in that is required, right? Inbound marketing typically converts faster. They've raised their hand. They've said that they're ready. So that can convert into a contract faster. Outbound marketing, they may have just thought about it for the first time when you reached out to them. In that case, they may be 9 months down the line before they're ready to make a decision because they're waiting on their child to graduate from college, right? Like, those are real things. And those are things that are outside of your control. But can you reach out to somebody today and build enough rapport and build a relationship to the point where you're still there and you're the one that they call in 9 months when they actually are ready? Right? Do you have the capacity to put the time and effort into making that happen? Those are the kinds of questions that you need to ask. Like I said, each individual thing, whether it's cold calling or PPC or Google Ads or whatever it happens to be, um, all of them are going to have a little bit different idiosyncrasies. And I think that's a great kind of marketing series that we can kind of dive into after we go through the actual START program. Um, but for the targeting, understand inbound, outbound, understand which one fits your business better. Pick one, pick what fits into your budget, and go and implement that. You need to start generating leads, and you do that through this target step. So go out there, whether it's cold calling or whether it's PPC where you're or PPL where you're paying individually for leads. Great way to get started. If you have some reserves, let's just buy leads as they come in, right? Um, your goal with the target step is to start having conversations, right? Maybe you're going to pull this list and do cold calls, but you decide to drive first, right? One thing that was important about that story is that I had my list, but I also had the phone numbers. I was making telephone calls while I was out there in the field, while I was in front of the house. I was making connections with people on my list there. The conversation is the most important part. The target step is all about creating conversations. Now in the conversations are these people that we can actually provide a solution for. That's the next step. That gets into acquire. Acquire is all about taking that conversation and turning it into an actual contract. So that'll be the next video. I appreciate you guys' time. Until next time.
Okay, let's go.